On my 20th birthday, I got nearly blackout drunk and I hosted a party that had unlimited alcohol and a jumping castle. And it turns out that wasn't the best combination and I never got the deposit back on the church that I rented. In my 20s, I had a lot of fun and I made some really good decisions, but I also made some really bad decisions that literally cost me over $1 million and left some happiness and success on the table. So I wanna go through the exact lessons that I wish I knew that would have made me millions and had a lot more fun and a smoother process along the way. The first is literally that, an investing mistake that cost me over $1 million despite reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Intelligent Investor, Millionaire Fastlane, all of the top investing books. I still made this mistake and I've seen 95% of my friends do the exact same thing. So let me take you back to when I was 24 years old and I started to make over $100,000 a year. So I started to read every good investment book and then I started reaching out to the wealthiest people that I knew to try to understand what is a good investment strategy. And there was a couple of conflicting ideas that I heard. One of them is just don't try to beat the market, invest in index funds. But then I also heard if you're an expert in an area, then you might be able to invest in that area and beat the market. And because I was running this e-commerce agency, I knew how good Shopify was. So I started to buy Shopify. And then I became a big fan of Chamath Palihapitiya and Richard Branson, and I knew that they were launching SpaceX onto the market. So I started to buy that. Then I heard about Peloton and it was incredible NPS score, even better than Apple. So I started to buy all of these different tech stocks. And then also the cryptocurrency hype came. And although I didn't know much about it and I didn't want to invest the time, I had a lot of friends that were obsessed about it. They kept talking about different coins and they're making hundreds, if not millions of dollars from different coins. And so I said, tell me what to buy. And so I didn't want to miss out. And even though I thought it might have been a bubble, I wanted to invest because they had a lot of expertise. And so I started buying some Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then all of these interesting ICOs, these coins that were coming to the market. And if I look at my 10-year investment journey, I lost money on Shopify, I lost money on Peloton, I lost money on all my tech stocks, I lost money on cryptocurrency because I was buying through that whole journey. So the first big lesson was, even though I thought I knew better, the thing that Warren Buffett said beats 96% of money managers is just buying boring index funds with low fees and just letting it sit for a really long time. And I wish I could go back and slap myself in the face and stop thinking about all of these other things and that I was smarter than the market, because I didn't want to be playing the lottery with these tech stocks. I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to be making some safe income in the background. And then the other big lesson was how much energy this was all taking. I'm sure that if you get started in investments, you probably start checking it regularly. And if I think about it, I was investing tens of thousands of dollars into cryptocurrency and I was checking it every day on my phone. I was up a few $1,000s, down a few thousand. And meanwhile, I'm building a multi-million-dollar agency. And a lot of my energy, maybe 20-30% of my mental energy was thinking about tens of thousands of dollars when I should be spending it all on my multi-million-dollar company that I'm building and compounding, and I actually am a true expert in. And so by having clear frameworks about how you should be investing, it will stop you from thinking about everything else that's going on with your portfolio and your investments and allow you to just focus on the things that really matter. So the big takeaway is having clear investment principles and rules that you follow that just make it simple to know which things you should invest in and which things that you shouldn't. That way you don't have to think about every deal that's coming your way, every company. You just go, cool, this fits my framework, I'm in or I'm not. And then you can focus on the things that really matter to you. But the $1 million I lost, I would have given $1 million more if someone would have taught me this sooner. You and I have heard the quote, you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with. And I knew this was incredibly important in my 20s. And I was blessed to have a great group of friends, some inspiring mentors, but there's still something that was missing within my community because there's something unique about my energy that I wasn't necessarily overlapping with some of my community. And truthfully, I'd always been a little bit different in my life. I got in a ton of trouble growing up in school. I stopped going to university classes and I was running a radio show and partying all the time. And I had a lot of friends that overlapped with a lot of my interests, but there was something different about my energy. And at times I'd start to feel lonely because I always was excited about pushing and reading self-development books and learning the next thing. But some of my friends would tell me that I needed to slow down and needed to take a break and have a holiday, which I think is great advice. But for me, it just wasn't the thing that was making me happy. And I wanted to understand how to build these peers that were living a similar life to the life that I wanted to create. It took me 10 years to probably understand this, but there are 4 strategies that are pretty easy to build an incredible network. The first one is masterminds. And if you don't know what that is, you spend a bunch of money to hang out with a lot of interesting people, and someone has already done the curation for you, and you get to have this really fun, interesting experience. And for whatever reason, when I saw these masterminds, I thought they sounded really boring. I didn't want to sit in a classroom. I'd gotten a lot of trouble growing up, and I just didn't want to be lectured about information that I could get on YouTube anyway. But I heard about this thing called baby bathwater, which I'd heard really good things about. And I called a few friends that had been, and they said, like, trust me, you just need to go. And even though it was $10,000, which was so much money for me at the time, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna roll the dice on this and see how it goes. It was such an amazing experience for me. Not only did I close tens of thousands of dollars of business, and it was a tax write-off the expense as well, but I had an incredible time, and I met some of the closest friends that I still have to this day, and it totally changed the direction of my life. Probably for the first time in my life, I was around a whole community of people that were obsessive in the same way that I was, and it was such a beautiful experience to be in that energy and to learn so much from my peers. The second is building a personal brand. And again, I wish I started to understand this sooner, and I would have invested a lot of the ideas that I was learning and share them to the world, because once you put your personality out to the world, then you'll naturally find people that resonate with the things that you're interested in. And it doesn't matter if you're a scientist or a YouTuber or an entrepreneur, or whatever you might be, if you're really passionate about something and you're sharing it with the world, eventually people that have that same passion and that same energy will connect to your energy, reach out, and it's a beautiful way to make some incredibly strong friends. Next is running your own events, and it's a great way to add value to people around you. And so my whole 20s, I wasn't running events, but I kept getting better and better at it. And I would start to cold outreach to really interesting people. I would trend jack off other communities. For example, if there's a podcast you love, then you could run an unofficial meetup within your city to get people that are like-minded all together. And you're adding value because you're bringing everyone together. You get to be the connector, and you get to find the people that you're really excited about and build community with those people. The last strategy is finding the linchpin people that already have a community and befriending those people. Usually in every city and town, there's people that are big networkers, they are big community builders, and if you build a really strong relationship with those people, then naturally they'll already have a lot of people, and they'll intro you, and you can intro them to other people, and that can just give you this abundant feeling of great people that you're always meeting. And through building community, I ended up making one of my best friends, this incredible entrepreneur called Rian Doris, who we've shared a lot of information for each other. But one thing that he taught me really changed the way that I think about goals and success. Because for a lot of us, we get really excited about building financial freedom or a goal or a company in our 20s, and we start to get success. And in some ways, it probably outperforms our wildest expectations. For me, in my 20s, I thought if I'm 30 and I'm making $100,000 a year, that will be incredible, and I'll have like financial freedom to do what I want in the world. But it turns out with the power of compounding, I was making over $1 million a year, way more than I ever expected. But the problem with that is sometimes you can actually find yourself trapped in a goal that you set in your 20s. Because what happens is with the compounding effect, 5-6 years down the line, you're making more money than you ever expected to. Your company is bigger than you ever expected it to. You built that company based on being opportunistic, and you wanted to get financial freedom, but eventually it becomes a trap because your spending starts to go up and your lifestyle starts to increase, and you're really enjoying the status associated with building a really big company, but you haven't actually parlayed that into something new. And the scary thing about going into something new is it's going to be way smaller than the thing that you've already invested 5, 6, 7, 8 years into, because you're starting again. And you've got all these skill sets. You can maybe move faster, but you're not going to move as fast as something that you've put years into. And so when I understood how truly compounding works, it changed how I think about goal setting. The problem that I made, and you don't want to make, is to build a prison with your business. See, what happens is compounding kicks in and you get excited about getting more and more money. And I saw, okay, I'm making $500K, then $1 million, then $2 million. And it's really hard to know when to quit, when you know if you just work another year, the income that I'm gonna make is so much money. And it's more than I ever wanted or needed because I already had enough money to live the life that I wanted. And truthfully, I love my marketing business, but it wasn't something that I saw myself doing forever. It wasn't the thing that I wanted on my tombstone. Here lies Max, great marketer. I knew that I wanted to be more impactful. I knew I wanted to have businesses that I would enjoy more. I knew I wanted to get out in the world. And I loved the business, but it had served me really well. But in some ways, I was trapped to it because it was just too good of an opportunity, and I didn't know how to transition off it. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs making the same mistake because the opportunity gets too good and it's not actually serving their deeper meaning and why they created it in the first place. When I did get to transition out of my main business, I had the time and energy to do something that I'm really excited about, which is right now incubating companies that are mission driven and building a community around entrepreneurship. And this leads me to the next point. And when you think about compounding and how much you can actually grow once you have the power of compounding, this could actually be my most expensive mistake. And that was misallocating my time. In your 20s, it's really important how you spend your time. But that leads me to my next point, which is also really important how to spend your time most effectively in your business. And it wasn't until I had lunch with Andrew Wilkinson. So I asked Andrew a question about my Shopify business and we were talking about a rebrand and I had different questions. And Andrew answered a totally different question, which is why are you even doing this e-commerce company if it's so easy to compete with you? And it really made me think about defensibility as a strategy because I was focusing on the opportunity and we were getting great traction in revenue and profit and all these things, but I wasn't thinking about a 10 or 15 year strategy. And if you really think about your business like it's something you're going to do for 15 years, then you'll think about what are the assets that you can be building at the same time you're building revenue and profit that no one else can compete with. And so you might be thinking, well, that's great, but I need to get the revenue and profit first. But you can actually do both at the same time. I want to give you two examples. One is a business called Mini Katana, and they sell swords online. And that's a difficult business to be in. But one thing that they've done incredible is they get so many organic views. They run their business almost more like a content creation agency than an e-commerce company. And they now get over 300 million views every month on their TikTok, Shorts, and all their different media outlets combined. And that's created an 8-figure company for the owner, Isaac, and he's done incredibly well. And the thing is, you just can't compete with that business because you can't copy their website and they don't even run ads. But if you did, you wouldn't be able to get the traction because they've been building trust for years and people love the brand, they love the content, they keep coming back for the content, they want to support them and they get excited about the products. And the same thing happens in other industries as well. For example, I know someone like Chase Diamond who built an email marketing agency. And while a lot of agencies are reaching out to a lot of businesses and running ads, and he might be doing a little bit of that, but he's done something great, which is build an amazing personal brand. And so he's been talking about email marketing strategies for really long. He goes on stage for different conferences all around the world. He breaks down email marketing campaigns from all of the best brands around the world. And you constantly learn and learn from someone like that. And then finally, when it's time for you to think about who you want to work with, he is front of mind because he's been building that asset, that community, and that brand for a really long time. And it's something that 5-10 years later, no one can compete with because you can't copy his ads because you don't have the trust that he's created with the audience as well. If you're just thinking about revenue and profit in the short term, you'll chase the things that work in the short term. But if you're thinking about a company that anyone could run that will last the stand of time, then you'll think about defensibility. So the key takeaway is to have a defensible strategy that no one can compete with and that the business is running so well that anyone could run it because the assets are so strong. And during that conversation with Andrew, I learned mistakes that I'm making now in my 30s that I wish I knew sooner, and a lot of other incredible information on how to build a massive business without a lot of effort. So check that out here, and thanks for watching.